Basically, severe sleep apnea is 30 episodes per hour or higher. And my average was 88 episodes per hour.
How did you find the carnivore diet?
Well, I kind of found the carnivore diet earlier this year in 2023. I have been looking for something to improve my health and lose weight for literally 20 years now. And in the beginning of 2023, I just did a deep dive into searching for healthy lifestyle, healthy diets, and most everything that seemed to come up was Weight Watchers, shakes, juice cleanses and things like this. And I just really couldn't find anything. And then in probably February, I said, I look at YouTube to fix my car, to fix something in the house if I need to. And I was like, all right, let me check out YouTube. So I started looking at YouTube, and one of the funny things is I came across a TED Talk. And I remember this one so clearly because this guy was talking about how you need to test for everything. No diet is exactly the same. And he went on about this for about 30, 40 minutes, however long his program was or his talk was. And then, the way YouTube rolls into the next video, well, the very next video was a woman who was talking about we are all human beings. We all need to eat the same way. And it just could not have been any more polar opposite than what the previous expert was saying. And they both had lots of letters after their names and were doctors, nutritionists, whatever they were. But I was like, I'm not a confused person. And I felt confused after seeing those two videos. And then eventually I found keto, and I tried keto for several weeks because, oh, great, you can have pizza, and let me try a keto pizza. And that was one of the items that we cooked here at home. And we tried to have, keto pizza, and it wasn't bad. But by the end of it, I just wanted a real pizza. So I was like, all right, this isn't going to work. I can't go with recipes like this and fake substitutes, or not fake substitutes, but alternative substitutes. That's just not going to work for me. And then, like so many, thank goodness, I don't remember who showed up first on YouTube, but Dr. Berry, Dr. Baker, Dr. Chafee, they all showed up. And then thankfully, Laura Spath was there. You were there. Kelly Hogan was another big one. Dante at Ferrigno Freedom, and just seeing all of these different shows really just kind of resonated with me. And just to go back a little bit, and I don't know if I should have started with this or not, but for me, my health journey started 20 years ago. And in 2002, I think I sent you those pictures, the 3 different pictures of a thin me in 2000. That was probably in the beginning of 2002. About 180, 181 pounds, 185, right in that range. And, throughout my childhood, I was always a normal weight, physically active. I played, soccer and ran track in junior high and high school, and played lacrosse one year and things like that. And then in my 20s, I became an avid cyclist, and I used to ride hundreds of miles a week and just was active and average weight. And then in my late 20s, I gained a little bit of weight, like 20, 30 pounds or so, but nothing too much. And I was always able to reel it back in. And in my mid 30s, when that picture where I was a bit thinner, again, I was able to reel it back in. And then just after that, towards the end of 2002, And 2003 is when I really just gained weight. And I went from the 180s, 190s up over 200 and then eventually to about 265. And when I was at 265, I was there for probably 265 to 285 pounds. I just kind of fluctuated back and forth between 265 and 285. And I didn't feel terrible, but I certainly didn't. You don't feel good when you're that heavy. Again, I was still kind of active, and I always kind of told myself that I was still healthy, even though I was overweight. I was just an overweight, healthy guy because at that time I wasn't on any medications. I didn't have any prescriptions for anything. I didn't have high blood pressure or anything like that. But I had a couple instances where I had a little bit of a reality check. One time my wife and I were invited to go hiking with another couple, and they invited one or two other couples, and everybody was average weight. Nobody was an athlete or anything. Everybody was in their 30s and 40s at that time. And we went hiking, and I was overweight. And within the first 10 minutes, I couldn't keep up with them. They went up. I told them to go. My wife, ran up the hill a little bit. Then she waited for me, and we caught up, and we went up together. And I was about 30 minutes behind, the whole group. And then that didn't feel all that great. And that was one of the first times when I'm like, all right, this, even though I'm heavy, this is not healthy, or, not being able to keep up with average people. And then one time I was playing tennis with my brother, who's 6 years older than I am, and he just kicked my butt. I just, within, same thing, 10, 15 minutes, I was winded. I just wasn't able to play at the level that he was at, even with him being 6 years older than I am. So after that, it just kind of stayed there for a while in the mid 2013 to 2016. And then I had a time in 2017 where I was offered a job, and I had to go take a physical for this. And I've done that before. It wasn't uncommon. And I went for the physical, and I was in there all of about 5 or 10 minutes. And the doctor came in and said, well, do you take blood pressure medication? I was like, well, no, I've never had to. I don't take any medication. I always kind of prided myself on never having to have a prescription, in my 40s. And he was like, all right, well, we have a couple other concerns as well. And we want to send you to some specialists. We want you to sit into this room. We're going to turn on a small light and let you just sit there and try to bring your blood pressure down and see if that helps or not. And then after that, if everything's okay, we're going to send you to this specialist. Then I want you to come right back to the office, and we're going to ask them to send the results back, and we'll go from there. So now I'm sitting here trying to relax, wondering, am I able to get this job? This was a good job, and it was similar to ones that I've had before. And I'm like, wow, is my weight holding me up, and my health, obviously at this point, holding me up from this job? And they redid the blood pressure, and I was just under the line. So he was like, okay, there's one. Go to this specialist, come back. Pretty much the same thing. Everything there was just under the line, and he thankfully signed off for the job. But that was another one of those times where, wow, this is not good. And at that appointment, I was at 295. So I had crept up just a bit more from the 280, 285 range. And then I said, all right, that's it. I'm gonna diet. I'm gonna lose this weight. So for the next month, I really dieted really hard. Restriction, exercise, not exercise, but just more movement. Since my 20s, unfortunately, I haven't been terribly into fitness other than hiking and tennis and what I thought was exercise. But I was just trying to do more. And then it was the day before Thanksgiving. I was like, all right, in the US holiday in November, the day before Thanksgiving, I wanted to eat whatever I wanted to have. I didn't want to be on restriction. I had been working really hard for a month now to lose the weight. And we had a scale that was used for shipping, and it was in a kind of a private area. So I went out in just shorts and a t-shirt, just went and weighed myself day before Thanksgiving after dieting really hard for over a month, and I was 298. So I had gained even just a few more pounds, and went to Thanksgiving, had everything, a huge plate, and there was so much food left over. I took another plate home with me, and met some friends, and we had a glass of wine, and then like 8 o'clock that night on Thanksgiving, I was kind of hungry again, so I had a little bit more. Well, I got up the next morning and just felt terrible, and I don't know why, but I just felt the need to drive out to that scale and weigh myself again. And that was the first time that I passed 300. I stepped on the scale with the same exact shorts on, the same exact shirt, t-shirt, nothing else, emptied my pockets the whole bit, the same way that I did two days earlier, and I was almost 304. And there's no way I could convince myself that my t-shirt and my shorts were 3 or 4 pounds and that I'm still under the 300 mark. And that was another just rough time, and kind of realizing that what I'm doing isn't working. And over the next few years, I tried doing Weight Watchers online. I tried again some of the juicing. I bought a NutriBullet, and I was juicing and trying to do all these things. And, for 1 year, I ate nothing but, for breakfast, I ate nothing but oatmeal. I had oatmeal every morning with raisins and honey, because that's healthy, right? So I did that for a year, and sure enough, over the next 6 months to a year, next thing I knew, I was up to about 325, 330. And I'm doing all these things that I really thought were good for me, that you always hear, this is what you need to do. And even especially the oatmeal was a recommendation from a physician's assistant where I was working, because every year I had to go for an annual physical, and they were concerned. And at this point now, my A1C was at 5.6. And it just, my body really did not like 300 plus pounds. Every 10, 20 pounds, something else became a challenge. And, I ultimately went up to a total of 360 sometime after that. That was actually in 2021. But I kept trying all of these standard methods and just nothing was working.
So sorry to jump in, but this must have been super demoralizing.
It was.
Because you're doing everything you think is right, everything you've always been told, and it's just getting worse.
Yeah. I even at that time tried going vegan, vegetarian. In there, I tried doing that for a few months, and I found myself just eating so much rice and pasta and just other foods. And I would have to just, if I had a huge salad, I would just have to drown it in dressing. And I tried doing those things because people said, all right, well, you can have the dressing, all the lettuce, all the greens are good for you, and it won't be an issue. And it was a huge issue. It kept going. So to get back to it, finally, that's when in 2021, I had 3 different episodes that really just hit me upside the head. I knew I probably had sleep apnea, And I had been tested once before, but when I went to the sleep study years before, the power went out in the middle of the night and they couldn't finish the sleep study. So my wife videoed me one night sleeping. And at first I didn't even recognize what the video was, but this roundish thing in bed was me on my side. And the thing sticking out of the sheets was my arm, which is just this rather large arm. And I would just have this god-awful gasping for air, and then just a terrible exhale, and then just silence. I just wasn't even breathing. And then, shortly after that, just again, this gasp for air. And that's when I knew I needed to go and get a sleep study. And I went to have the sleep study done in probably February of 2021. And at this time, I was right around 350, 355, and went for the sleep study. And they said, well, you have a pretty high score. We'll let the doctor talk to you. But you need to address this. So I went and this was at 6 o'clock in the morning. I went home, I had breakfast. A couple hours later, the doctor called and said, yeah, you have sleep apnea, but we want to talk to you about it. Can you come in today? And this is a doctor that you have to make an appointment with for about a month in advance. And so I said, I'm moving today to another city. The car's loaded. I can't come in today. And he said, all right, well, we're going to put in a work order or a prescription for a CPAP machine. And so the woman that was on the phone, I said, since I'm not seeing the doctor, can you tell me, put into context, what was my score, or how do you do this? And they said, well, yes, since you're not meeting the doctor, basically severe sleep apnea is 30 episodes per hour or higher. And my average was 88 episodes per hour. So that was, wow. Okay. Now I kind of understood a little bit more of why their urgency at the sleep study place and the doctor, and even at the store where he called in the prescription for the CPAP machine. He called a couple hours later and said, can you come in today and pick this up? You need to start using this today. And I told him the same thing. I'm moving. I really can't get there. What time do you close? They close at 5. I couldn't get there till 5:30 or 6. And the guy was like, no, I'll wait for you. He's like, you need to start using this right away. So he did. He waited for me. I got there a little after 5:30. He took about 45 minutes and trained me on it. And I've used the machine ever since. But yeah, after seeing the video of how I was breathing or not breathing in my sleep, and so my sleep apnea clearly got really bad. And then the second item later in that year was July. I need to go for a colonoscopy. So we set that up, and the facility where the doctor usually does the colonoscopy wanted to do a pre-screening. So I went in for the pre-screening, and they said, I'm sorry, but your doctor has to do this at a hospital. You can't have this done, here at this facility. And I was like, all right. And I was like, well, why? What's the problem? And they said, well, because of your weight, you're just so severely overweight, and that when you're overweight like this, quite often your tongue gets very fat and you have to be under anesthesia. So if your tongue goes limp, for the lack, I don't know exactly how they said it, but if your tongue just gives out and just falls back into your throat and blocks your airway, 911 emergency services couldn't get here fast enough to revive you. So they said, you have to have this done in a hospital where there's emergency services right there. So that was like, wow, so I had the procedure done in the hospital. So sorry, Dave. The third one that happened was in August of 21. This is when we found out that my wife was pregnant. And I just couldn't stop thinking, I'm so overweight. I now have so many health issues. And now we're going to have a baby. I'm going to be 55 years old. I have to be here for the next 20, 25 years. You know, we have a we have a teenage daughter. And now we're going to have a newborn. When is this going to end? This continuous weight gain. And then after that, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is one of the best blessings you could ever receive. You know, and that wasn't the issue. The issue was just, am I going to be here even in 5 years at the rate that I'm going? Am I going to lose weight and then gain it back even more like I've done in the past and hit 400, 500? I mean, when's it going to end? So then I started again, started dieting, started trying all these things. And for about a year and a half, I started losing weight, but I lost like 10, 15 pounds the usual way. And it was a struggle the entire time. And it just was not easy. And then to get caught up at 2023, I was like, all right, you know, at this rate, it's going to take me 3, 4, 5 years to get under 300 when things were somewhat normal for my body, and somewhat healthy again, even though I knew I need to lose a lot more than that and get back down into a healthy weight range. And it just, that was, you know, those were, you know, that became my why. First off, it was my health. Obviously, it's gotten so bad. I have a wife, 2 kids that I need to be here for. And then that's when in 2023, I really just started searching the internet. And thankfully, found you, found Dr. Berry and Dr. Chafee and all that. And just said, I think this is for me. This makes sense. I appreciated what all the doctors had said and the information that they had behind eating carnivore. And then also, it really struck me when I saw that, you know, Laura Spath did this with her husband, and they have 2 kids, like my wife and I, and they make it work as a family. And then I saw Nisha, Dr. Berry's wife. I saw some of her videos, and again, seeing that as a family, they're making this work. And Dr. Berry's, you know, baby is a few months younger than my wife and I. So I was like, that was kind of like, okay, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to just make this work. And I really think I can do this. And so at one point, we finally went out. We did some shopping. We got carnivore meals. We got meat and fish and sausage and eggs and bacon and cheese. And I just said, all right, I'm going to start on Saturday. And the Friday before, the day before, of course, I went out and had pizza and dessert. And I think we even had a glass of wine or a beer or something. And it was Saturday morning was going to be the start. And that was it. Saturday morning rolled around. I had bacon and eggs. You know, I made that for the family. We had bacon and eggs, and then we had steak that night. And for the most part, that's been it. And now, yesterday actually was 6 months of eating carnivore. So I'm down on carnivore nearly 45 pounds. I'm at 284. I had lost some weight before carnivore, but again, it took a really long time, and it wasn't easy. And I was just always worried that losing that weight was just going to come back and, be even worse. So that was a huge relief, and just carnivore has been it. And within the first few weeks, I kind of I didn't think I had it, but I did have a little bit of keto flu. I kind of felt a little dizzy, and there were some bathroom emergencies, nothing terrible, thank goodness. But got through the first month, and my energy was just incredible. And it was has become the best way of eating out there. And I had also gone to my doctor before starting carnivore. I mentioned it to him. I had been asking my doctor, by the way, for help for quite some time. And he just said, eat less and exercise more. Just the standard answer. And I said, all right, thanks, doc. I said, that's what I've been doing for 20 years. And I'm 360, so that wasn't much help. And I even asked him for diet pills, and he's not a fan of that, but he had no other information or advice. And when I told him I was going to do carnivore, I kind of broke him in easy, kind of carnivore / keto. So he thought I was going to have some vegetables. And he was like, I don't want you to lose weight and die of a heart attack. And at this point I was, taking blood pressure medication. He wanted to put me on a statin. I researched that and said, there's absolutely no way I'm taking a statin. Do you realize what the side effects are? I said, the side effects for this drug that you prescribed me is hunger and can push you towards type 2 diabetes. And at that time, my A1C was 5.8, and I was 350 pounds. And I'm like, so I'm going to be even more hungry. And you're worried about my cholesterol and not my weight. And he kind of irritated me a little bit with his response. But after that, I had a baseline for my lab work. And then we agreed that 2 months into carnivore, I would go back, and virtually everything improved. My A1C dropped. My triglycerides dropped by like 51 points. My the good cholesterol supposedly went up several points, and he just couldn't believe it. Ultimately, by the time I left his office that day, he said, I don't know how this is happening, but keep doing what you're doing, because everything on my lab work improved. I don't think there was anything other than my LDL going up like 20 or 25 points. Everything else was good and was a positive. So he really couldn't argue it and didn't want to approve it, but just said, keep doing what you're doing. So that's what I've been doing. And it's amazing. Every month, things are getting so much better. My sleep apnea right now I still need the CPAP machine, but the sleep apnea is so much better now. It's every night, virtually every night, unless I do something to throw it off, like go to a restaurant and pick the wrong place and have seed oils and just whatever they put on things. Then my sleep apnea will get worse for a night or two, but it's down under 5 every night for the first time in 2.5 years of having the machine. My A1C is better. Just everything's improved. Energy is so much better. Mental clarity is so much better. I just couldn't be any happier doing carnivore than I am. And now that it's been 6 months, I can clearly see that this is the way I'm going to eat the rest of my life. Will I incorporate vegetables? Maybe at some point. I don't miss them. And I have not been perfect on carnivore. I allow myself to go off of carnivore from time to time. When our little girl's first birthday, when she hit 1, I did have some of her cake. We had a house guest over who made lasagna. And for me, I wasn't going to say, no, I'm not going to eat this. So I gave myself that one day and had some lasagna, and I had the birthday cake, and next day went back to carnivore. So I've done that several times, even when my wife and I go out on a date night. I'll try to pick and I'll have a steak or something along those lines, and try to be as good as possible. But if I go off a little bit, I don't worry about it. I know I could be losing more weight a little quicker, but this to me is the rest of my life, not just drop the weight in 6 months or 8 months or 10 months or anything like that. This is me figuring out how I can do this and make this work to be healthy for, hopefully, praise to God, the next 25 years. And it's just been incredible, and just getting better even after 6 months now, or even after my 5-month mark last month. Even this month is just a little bit better. Sleep is better. Just everything is improving, and I just couldn't be happier with carnivore.
That's awesome, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on something. So, after the amount of times that you tried to lose weight and you gained it, like, how do you feel about carnivore? Like, you've been on it for 6 months, the weight is literally melting off you, and I mean, from my perspective, looking at that seems like that would be super motivating. So not only is it easy to stick to because it's satiating, it's easy to stick to because you can see, well, there's results. Like, just between yesterday and today, I can see a difference. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been fantastic. It was demoralizing every time you lose 20 or 30 pounds and then gain back 30 or 40 pounds. And it was never easy. It was always a struggle. You're always hungry. You don't realize, until you do carnivore, you don't realize how bad you felt before. And especially when you try starving yourself to lose the weight. And not only are you starving yourself, but then you're also trying to go out and move more. And if you really think about it, how does that make sense? Starve yourself, go out and exercise more. Don't feed your body exercise, And
Very good point.
It's just now at this point, my eyes have opened up to that logic, or the lack thereof. And it was demoralizing. And I've done this, I don't know how many times over the last 20 years, of losing it, the weight, gaining it back, and then some, and trying every diet, out there. And, now on carnivore, the motivation is definitely there. Thankfully, I mean, I absolutely love eggs, bacon, butter, beef. I mean, I mostly eat beef, bacon, butter, and eggs. That's for the most part. And just naturally, literally from day one, I eat 2 meals a day. I have breakfast, if I can, when my schedule allows me to have breakfast / lunch somewhere around 11 o'clock, give or take an hour. And then ideal for me is dinner at 4 o'clock. Again, give or take an hour. Sometimes my schedule, it's 3 or 5, and just from day one, 2 meals a day. That's, and in that window, whenever possible, which is most times. And every now and then, on not a cheat day, but the times when I've made a bad decision about going out to a restaurant or something. Just last month, I had a terrible time. I went to a favorite restaurant and thought I was being good. Didn't have any rice or any starch or any carbs or anything, but I gained 6 pounds of water weight in a week. And it took me 2 weeks to undo that one meal at the restaurant. And I went back to my 2 meals a day. Then I went to 1 meal a day. And then ultimately what got everything out of my system is one week I did a 48-hour fast. And then the next week I did that again. And that got rid of everything. But it's amazing that you can go to a restaurant, and even though that restaurant and those items that I ate that day were a mistake, I was able to correct it. And yeah, it set me back 2 weeks, but in the scheme of things, over the course of 20 years, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
So I was able to literally just go back, correct that. And ultimately, even for the month of September, with having that experience at the restaurant, I lost that 6 pounds that I put on that week, and then another 5. So ultimately, I lost 5 pounds for the month of September. I know it could have been much better, but it's a learning experience. And it's just amazing that you start to learn how your body really reacts to different foods. And that's why I'm not beating myself up over that meal and that experience. That's the way it happened. And it just went right back to normal. Everything's been back to normal for more than a week. And I feel great again. And I'm just back to carnivore. So I know I can do that from time to time. My wife and I can go out to dinner. And if there's a bad reaction, I know how to reel it in for the next time. Hopefully not that bad, because that was the worst time yet. Even having the birthday cake and everything else, several months ago, that restaurant, whatever was in the sauce that was on the shrimp and the beef and whatever I had, even though I drained as much as possible, and it threw me for a loop. But with carnivore, there's a fix or a cure for just about everything. It really is surprising that you can just get yourself back on track.
It seems to put you more in tune with everything that's happening in your body. So you kind of have confidence that you never had before that it's going to be all right. I can get back on track. Whereas, on any other diet before, it would have been like complete meltdown. Oh my goodness, I'm never gonna get this off. Oh well, I'll just go back to eating donuts. And it's that slippery slope, right?
It is. It's just to have that confidence and to know that that's available for me to do is incredible. And you're so right about being in tune. I've never been as in tune with my body and what I'm eating as I am now. At any other point in my life, I can clearly see what certain foods do for me. And I've done the butter experiment. I know if I have too much, the weight loss slows down. With cheese, wow, on my 3rd month, I found that out clearly. There are certain cheeses I can't have in the house. Brie is one of them. In the 3rd month, within 24 to 36 hours, I ate an entire, or 2 or 3 entire wheels of brie myself. Our house guest had a little bit one day. I finished the rest. And in that month, I think I lost 2 or 3 pounds. And so I know that certain cheeses I can't have, because as I'm cooking, even if it's supposed to just be melted over the meat, as I'm cooking, I'm going to pick on it. And, but you learn these things. You figure out, all right, certain things you can't have. You either for yourself mentally, because it's, I don't want to use the word addicting, but I'm just going to eat too much of it. Or you just know that certain seasonings seem to hold things up. You get so much more in tune, where if you feel terrible the next day, well, what did I put on that meat other than salt? That's right. I use that Chicago style, steak seasoning. And that's, you eliminated so many things, and everything is so much cleaner. You know what sets you off and what you did different from the last several days. So it's fantastic. I couldn't be any more thrilled. My wife's thrilled. My snoring has gotten better. Even when I'm on the sofa taking a nap or something, which isn't very often, but the times that it does happen, I'm not sounding like a freight train. And the weight is coming off, and for the first time in 6 years, I'm under 300 pounds again. And now that I'm at 284, I haven't been that in 7 or 8 years, something like that. And feeling so much better. And even for physical activity, since I used to be a cyclist years ago, I bought myself an e-bike, and I hardly use the motor, but I get out and I get on the bike, and I'm cycling. I try to go just about every morning. I miss some mornings a bit more lately, just schedule wise, and sometimes the baby just keeps us up, and it just just can't get out there.
Is your wife joining you at all with this? Is she kind of semi doing it? How's that going?
Well, thankfully, I'm the only person in the house that needs this, and not that I'm the only one that needs this. I truly believe that this is the right way to eat. But my wife is physically fit, average weight. She's actually very physically fit. Our teenage daughter is as well. The newborn, obviously, she's just fine. But mostly they eat carnivore because just about every night I'm making a steak, and I am having eggs and bacon in the morning, and they have that. Although my wife will have certain foods that she wants. If she wants to have rice or potatoes or something, she does. She's, I would say, probably about 70% carnivore at this point. Same with our teenager. She's probably 70%, other than obviously school is something that we're working with. That's a challenge. And she plays sports as well. And when they go on away trips, they always stop at either a gas station or a fast food place. And a lot of times it's a pizza place or a sandwich place or a burger place. And, if she just got the burger, great. But, I know that she gets the complete meal with the bun, the lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, French fries, Coke, the whole bit. But so yeah, they're very supportive that way. The only things that were a challenge is when she had home economics, and it was baking. So for about 2 months, the house just smelled like cinnamon and just all these baked goods for school projects. So it is what it is. I've never really cheated. I have tasted some of her things, because even just last week she thought something came out terrible and it was absolutely perfect. And I just tried one bite of this cake that she made, and it was fantastic. So far, I haven't had any issues with that. I know people like to empty their pantries, but we still have pasta in there. We still have rice. We still have mac and cheese in there. She doesn't have that nearly as much, but it is still there, and I've been fine without it. It doesn't call me. I don't get those cravings like I used to. And when for work, if I'm out and about meeting clients, I used to plan my trips to go past this pizza place, go past this Chinese food, or I'm going to get Burger King today. And I used to plan my day that way. That doesn't come into play anymore. And having that food in the pantry, that's no problem. It doesn't call me. I'm fine with it. The house smelling like a bakery for 2 months was fine. As long as I have my eggs and bacon in the morning and then my steak in the afternoon, I'm full. I have no desire for anything else. So it's worked out so much better than you could ever imagine. So I'm thrilled.
That's awesome. And yeah, I feel like I think the time frame is different for everyone, but you do definitely get to a point where it's like, yeah, I'm over the
Mhm.
cravings. I can be around that stuff that I used to not be able to control myself with, and I'll be okay.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
went away for me probably after 2 months on carnivore. I don't even think it was
Mm.
a full 2 months, and that was gone. It just wasn't an issue. All the food in the house, and that was even after taking a step off of carnivore for a day or a meal, and then just going right back to it the next day. Cravings have been virtually non-existent um, since the beginning.
Mm. Nice. And so, You've started a YouTube channel, or you're thinking of starting a YouTube channel?
I have, just with, like everybody was talking about, to spread the word and get more people in and hear about this. It almost felt like a calling. My wife and I are very private. We don't share a lot of life details with family or friends or anything. And we really went back and forth about, if you put yourself out there on YouTube, it's out there forever and it's out there for everybody. And we went back and forth, and I was like, I just felt like, I don't think I'm a YouTube personality by any means, but it just, felt the need to start it. And again, if you just hit a few people, or my personality just clicks a little bit with a few other people that look at things my way, or just feel that there's some kind of a connection, then great. And that's what it is. So I started it about a month ago. I only have maybe 9 or 10 videos, not too many followers or anything. But I try to just put out some information. I'm still learning and figuring it out because I've never done YouTube before. So I'm trying to figure out lighting and all the technical aspect, and as well as contents, because sometimes I'll just go on, and then other times I feel like I need to reel myself in. But yeah, the YouTube channel is out there. And part of the reason I call it Less Junk, More Health is because of all the junk that carnivore has cut out of my life, from the junk food, beverages, and then just the behaviors. Like I mentioned to you, planning my business day to drive past that pizza place, to drive, that was just absurd. So it's changed and cut out so much junk. And then the definition of health, just is, what is it? To live without injury or illness. That's my ultimate goal. And I thought about putting the word carnivore in there somewhere, but at the same time, part of the reason I left that out is because I don't want YouTube to say, all right, that's the trigger word, or any, platform. And it is about less junk for me and more health. And at some point I do want to put in there the cycling and the exercise. I don't even like to call it exercise, the activities that I'm doing and that I enjoy. And I do want to talk about, why I got an e-bike and the whole bit, and just expand on that. And so that's all part of what's in there and what's to come on the channel. And the journey is to explore that a little bit more and put it out there, and just let people know that this is a thing, and it's not a fad by any means. And when you see someone like Kelly Hogan doing this 13, 14 years, and what is it, Dr. Weideman doing this, 15 years? This isn't, some fad that's going to be gone in 6 months from now. This is real, and the lab work shows it. Almost everybody's lab work shows that it's a real healthy way of life. So I just started that. We'll see how it goes. I try to post every week, maybe twice a week. I can't be a marathon runner like Dave. That's why I love your videos that you put out every day. It's like, wow, he's got it again today. That just takes so much work, and I admire your dedication, and thank you for it.
No, thank you. And for anyone watching, please do go to Less Junk, More Health and subscribe. I've just subscribed myself. So you've got one more. Yeah, but I really appreciate you coming on today, John, and sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Dave. It was nice to talk with you, and good to meet you.